So where is Jonathan Taylor going to end up? This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Wanted to go a little bit more in depth on the Jonathan Taylor news that broke late yesterday about the fact that the team gave him permission to seek a trade. Which teams are going to be in on him? Is he even going to be traded? So wanted to tell you, I just dropped a brief video on that yesterday, ironically enough, when I was at football practice myself. So wanted to discuss this a little bit more on my ride in this morning to another football practice. I coach high school football, if anybody was wondering. And yeah, so with the season now really 2 weeks away, my goodness, here we are. Taylor is officially on the block, and right away, the obvious team is the Miami Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins are already being connected to the Colts in terms of being the team that's most likely to trade for Taylor. And on the surface, it looks like a curious move. Well, for a number of reasons. One is that they have a very crowded backfield already with Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, the rookie Devin Achane, who's banged up, but he's going to be all right. Maybe miss a week or so with the shoulder. And then the other aspect to this is that, Austin Ekeler was given permission by the Chargers to, and he's a much more complete back than Jonathan Taylor is, to seek a trade. And, earlier this offseason, when there was no movement on a new contract for him. Well, Ekeler did not get anything remotely close to an offer. Basically picked his ball up and crawled back to the team. And that was that. So now, granted, Eckler's 3 years older than Taylor. But listen, I have said this up and down, all around, every time, every opportunity I get to talk about Jonathan Taylor. He is a high usage back. High usage back. He has carried the ball an exponentially high number of times, touched the ball, however you want to classify it, going back to college. At Wisconsin, he had very, very high usage in college. All right, and from the beginning, the fear for me has always been that, he's going to be one of those Larry Johnson, Eddie George guys who in the NFL, he comes out, has a couple of huge initial seasons, and then declines early. And not saying that's where we're at, but of course he's coming off a rough season. The season marred by injury. Had a ton of touches the year before. Last season, ankle injury, really just sabotaged his entire season. And the numbers really weren't that great either. He had a big week one and then pretty much tailed off from there. The Indy offensive line aged 100 years overnight. So, a lot of acrimony between the two sides. Jim Irsay, who, has never met a microphone that he doesn't want to jam in his own face, said some really ridiculous things publicly. Seems like the rift is so bad that even Irsay finally gave in after initially saying, no, he's not going anywhere. Now it's, okay, you have our permission. So, given the depressed running back market, and depressed is really kind of an understatement, considering where we are with Saquon and Josh Jacobs, who's also crawling back to the team now. Both guys crawled back to the team. Will Taylor get traded? That's not guaranteed. They're not going to get a first round pick for him. Maybe a 2 and a 3, or 2 and a 4. Maybe that gets that done. I don't know. Jim Irsay is completely unpredictable. He would obviously have the final say on this. But Miami clearly has to be considered the front runner. Now, the other thing that we got to pay attention to here is the fallout for both teams. Indianapolis cannot go into the season with Kenyon Drake as the starting running back. They just can't. Or Zach Moss, who's coming back from a broken arm. You got to be kidding me. I truly believe that once this trade is done, or maybe if something seems imminent, that the Colts are going to bring in Kareem Hunt. They've already had him in for a visit. I think Kareem Hunt is waiting to see what happens here too. Why sign on with the Vikings as a backup when you could be the starting running back for the Indianapolis Colts? And if Hunt ends up there, he could be in PPR leagues a low-end running back 2. A running back 3 in standard. So, he can still catch the ball. He's lost some speed, no doubt. Maybe he gets reinvigorated being in a new environment. Now, if he goes to Miami, Jonathan Taylor, I think it's almost guaranteed that either Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert will be included going the other way. They have to. Listen, they still have, I didn't even mention Myles Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed, who comes off a huge preseason performance in week 2. They still have those guys. They have 5 running backs on this team that are all capable of contributing in some form or another. Something has to give. So one of those guys will be sent back. I think it probably would be Mostert. But either one, get ready to strike. Because if it's Wilson or Mostert, they're going to be the starting running back for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, are there any other teams that can get involved in Jonathan Taylor? Listen, looking around the league, maybe as a compliment to Cam Akers with the, I can't see that. Forget that. But Dallas, I'm telling you guys, don't discount Dallas. Okay? They kicked the tires on bringing Ezekiel Elliott back because they like the big back role that he provided for them. And bringing in Jonathan Taylor would be an ultimate Jerry Jones move. Jerry Jones loves stars. Yeah, I can totally see him. The team has spoken about how they don't want to run Tony Pollard into the ground. I could totally see them doing this. And then obviously that's really bad news for Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard would be a running back 2 in all leagues if Jonathan Taylor comes in. Jonathan Taylor, this is not like the Ezekiel Elliott going to New England situation. Or even Dalvin Cook to the Jets. You bring in Jonathan Taylor, he's going to be your starting running back. Or at least a firm 50-50 share guy. So I don't see that being an issue as far as him not being the guy wherever he ends up. So this is fascinating to me. Do the Kansas City Chiefs kick the tires here? That's something that could happen. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs could absolutely get involved here. I mean, there are a few teams. I mean, what about the Baltimore Ravens? Baltimore Ravens, Todd Monken, new offense. That could happen as well. J.K. Dobbins, certainly not dependable health-wise. Man, if they brought in Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins will absolutely lose his shit. He's already pissed off. J.K. Dobbins will be the next one. He's going to be like, I want out. Get me out of here. So, there are a lot of moving parts to this situation that need to be taken, you need to take a firm, long look at. But this is fascinating with 2 weeks to go before the season starts. This is absolutely fascinating. It's a huge situation in fantasy football because somebody could potentially really get screwed here. If it's the Ravens, obviously Dobbins, Pacheco in Kansas City, if that, all these things. So I'm fascinated by this. Jonathan Taylor is a running back. You got to grade him as a low end one in standard. In PPR, it's harder in PPR because he doesn't catch the ball that well. I mean, he can do it, but it's not, it's almost like with Adrian Peterson back in the day with Minnesota. I think running back, low end running back 1, high end 2 is where he's at in PPR leagues. So, again, we just got to see how this all plays out. I don't think, listen, it would behoove the Colts to get this done as soon as possible. They don't want this to drag out any longer than Taylor does. But again, it's not guaranteed to happen. And if no deal is reached, what is Taylor going to do? Is he going to dig in and not play? Jacobs and Barkley came back. Ultimately, these guys don't want to miss games, and they can't give up this money. So, that's the issue. Man, there's a lot of assholes out on the road in the morning. Just wanted to say that. Well, anyway, so anything that drops on this from at any point, I'll jump on like I always do. So hit the subscribe button. Fascinating stuff. And like I said, we'll revisit it as things change going forward. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. We'll chat soon.